This generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
From the Hard News blog at publicaddress.net. Also check him out at Media 7 on TVNZ7. Russell Brown this morning. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
And this morning, rather than talking about a post that you've written, a bit of a scoop from Keith Ing on Public Address.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I was in Wellington on Monday afternoon talking to a group of young writers who'd come through a project called Just Write, WRITE, run by Global Focus Aotearoa, and had shown themselves to be bright and enterprising, and I talked to them about Keith Ing, Public Address's Keith Ing, and particularly noted Keith's ability to generate stories out of publicly available information.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that journalists often forget, is that there's so much information out there for the taking now, public data, that you should go get that before you start knocking on people's doors.
Or before you start rattling off mathematical figures on the 6 p.m. news.
Yeah. Oh, hell yes. Yeah, no, that's becoming embarrassing. The news ability on the news bulletin, the maths ability on the news bulletin is not good.
And got to say, Throng TV, we're just on that note, Throng TV doing a great job in actually pointing out the real figures when it comes to GST increases and prices on tobacco and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be someone in the office who could do that.
Yeah.
Seeing as it's going out on the news.
Yeah.
But anyway, so barely have I said that, but Keith brings home quite a nice little scoop.
Oh.
In his blog yesterday on Public Address, he pointed out that this new, supposedly grassroots retailers group, the Association of Community Retailers, which has begun to sound the alarm about proposals to make tobacco displays even less visible at retail.
Yeah.
So this group's popped up, and Keith discovered that this group uses the same PO box and office as All-Meki Public Relations, which is established by a guy called Glenn Inwood. Glenn Inwood also works for Imperial Tobacco New Zealand, and also for the whaling lobby, but I don't think that's directly connected here.
And that's publicly available information.
Yeah, and it actually really looks a lot like AstroTurf. You create this group of mum and dad retailers to say, oh no, but we'll go out of business if it becomes more difficult to sell tobacco, or people will rob our stores. It just seems a little bit too convenient that it happens to operate from the same office as the PR company that works for Imperial Tobacco New Zealand.
Okay.
And there's quite a bit of discussion about this. Various people have run off, including Ash and the Herald, and made something of Keith's story without crediting him.
Oh, really? Again?
Oh, it just keeps happening. It's a blog, you don't need to credit it. No, well, he's done all the work, hasn't he? It was a story again on Morning Report on national radio this morning, and no one seems inclined to credit Keith. But on the other hand, the Herald have done some more legwork on this, and apparently it's just a a coincidence that the ACR happens to work from this office, and Mr. Inwood has given them the space out of the goodness of his heart.
Right.
I'm not sure. Frankly, this group that apparently has no money has hired 2 staff. Doesn't apparently have a way to pay them because it doesn't charge its members any fees, and quite a number of the retailers who are listed as members of this organisation have never heard of it. So it does seem extremely odd, and it really does look as if there is a connection between big tobacco and this apparently little grassroots group.
Yeah.
You can see why they would want to do it. But it is fascinating, and there's been quite a bit of discussion about it. He has a follow-up this morning, and it is absolutely fascinating.
Is it the tobacco companies in their last death throes, do you think?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think they know they're on the way out. But the funny thing was, Keith blogged about this, and I tweeted the link to the blog, and we both have Carrick Graham, who's the former head of, formerly worked for British American Tobacco in New Zealand, Doug Graham's son, and actually hosted way back there Don Brash and John Carter at British American Tobacco's offices, and according to the Hollow Men, bought a couple of tables of a National Party fundraiser.
Yeah.
So it spreads out every which way.
But in some ways, I mean, if the government is going to take up some of these recommendations, they're going against perhaps what their backers have previously asked for.
Yeah, which is interesting actually.
Yeah.
You sort of wonder whether British American Tobacco are going to want their money back at some point. But that was a past time, and Don Brash is long gone from the National Party.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing about the Association of Community Retailers is that it now appears they're also pushing back against any attempt to restrict the advertising and display of junk food at convenience stores and dairies and supermarkets. As Keith points out, do you really, all those big brands, Cadbury, Coca-Cola, Bluebird, Tip Top, Mars, Nestle and Streets, do you really want to be in the same room as Big Tobacco? Because that's probably not going to be a very good look when Sue Kedgley gets going. So it's shed light on something that's no doubt goes on all the time, but it is fascinating to see how it happened and actually how easy it was for someone like Keith to nail this.
Yeah.
Just go sit there and spend some time looking up addresses.
And do you think that that's indicative of the problems in some of the major newsrooms around the country, where they just aren't being given the time, journalists aren't being given the time to investigate, to actually sit down and actually do a full investigative story?
Yeah, that's possibly it. Also, I think that there is this, again, I see, people in the media tend to ignore publicly available information. Keith actually did another story like this when he debunked some fairly crazy statistical abuse by the Herald, claiming that there was an explosion of violence in schools, and Keith put that one to rest. And he did so, as he did back, when he debunked the North and South story about Asian crime. He did so using publicly available data, and with the high schools one, he pointed out that the Herald had written this story and had trumpeted about how it had extracted this information and had made Official Information Act requests, and he said it was on the police website.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing, because it means that anyone can actually go and get that information, just spend the time, analyse it, and work out what's going on. It probably would be fair to note that that the Herald, online especially, has actually done the legwork since Keith made his post yesterday and interviewed both Richard.
Oh, you can't be showing up by a blog. You can't be showing up by a blog.
No, exactly. So they've interviewed the guy Richard Green, the guy that fronts the Association of Community Retailers, and Glenn Inwood, who's the spin doctor for Whaling and Big Tobacco. And apparently nothing in it, but that I to be honest, I find that a little hard to believe. I don't believe that everyone's doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
Well, great. People can go and enjoy Keithing's very hard work, much hard work over at publicaddress.net. Thanks, Russell.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Russell Brown at publicaddress.net, Media 7 Show, TVNZ.